A lot of people have a perspective of what the world is like. This can vary depending on different factors, such as class, where you live, race, and your economic status. One aspect many people do not recognize is that of the media. Television itself fosters beliefs about our social reality. This means that our media consumption shapes some of our basic views we have about our social reality. This is known as cultivation theory. Now, this does not imply that we take things exactly as they are portrayed in media for the direct truth. That's another theory entirely. TV only breeds basic assumptions about life, not specific attitudes or opinions. This is best demonstrated by the mean world syndrome, which is a sort of tumor that grows off of cultivation theory. Mean world syndrome is when people who watch television believe that the world is more dangerous than it is. Now, this should really not affect you unless you are a heavy television viewer, which I think most of us are. People who are heavy viewers have a tendency to believe that they are more likely to be a victim of violence. First, though, to understand, one must know that to be considered a heavy television viewer, you have to be watching 4 or more hours of television a day without any purpose. This is best demonstrated by that people think that their chance of involvement in violence is 1 in 10. The reality is the chance of being a victim of violence is 1 in 10,000. This is a huge difference. Just think about it for a minute. Most of the shows that we're drawn to and which have high ratings have some type of conflict. This conflict normally is high stakes with violence or a lot of swearing. Even in shows such as Real Housewives, they have a certain amount of violence. I can remember episodes where the women are pulling each other's hair and they're flipping a table. Now, the news is at fault as well. Any day you watch the news, it is guaranteed that you will see some type of violent crime. Just imagine how much worse watching crime shows such as Criminal Minds and then watching the news if the Real Housewives has a lot of violence in it. Our media is filled with violence, and this leaves us with a view that our world is a whole lot meaner than it actually is. Now, this effect is made worse when you have some type of experience that you see on television in your life. This is known as resonance. It is basically an intensified effect of cultivation theory because your reality is verifying what the media is portraying. In simple terms, it's mirroring one another, and you think that this equals. If your television were to portray all men as cheating evil beings, and then your boyfriend goes and cheats on you, you might be more inclined to think that all men are eventually bound to cheat because your experience verifies this viewpoint. This is not the same as mainstreaming. This is television reinforcing the status quo, that the dominant culture we believe reality is consistent to what's on TV, such that most shows demonstrate how teenagers are always causing trouble, and in a lot of shows, a guy is almost always seeking sexual gratification, such as in the show Criminal Minds. The character Derek is known as a ladies' man, and he's always seeking a little bit of fun when he's not working. Now, not everyone will be affected the same way by television as others are. We can use the 3 B's to demonstrate the effects. First, we have blurring. This occurs when you're a heavy television viewer and the programs slowly begin overriding your individual differences and perspectives. Second, we have bending. The more TV you watch, the more likely that your opinions are going to mirror those that the media portrays. Such as only watching Fox News, you might start to believe that pickles make you prone to violence when consumed, if that's what they're reporting that day. Third, we have bending. Now, this is essentially taking blurring 1 step further. The viewer can no longer see a difference between life and media. They do not see the line that separates the two. Think of this like the grandma who thinks that Chicago is filled with violence and guns because media portrays us as a horrible crime-ridden area. That if you visit, you're going to be shocked. A lot of us have this example. Just think about how our news portrays Europe whenever there's a terrorist attack. Most times they say, like, Americans aren't safe, they're not welcome, and ISIS is going to find you if you go over there. Cultivation theory is essential when understanding that our media does have an effect on us. One way to start combating the mindless following is to be aware of the possible consequences. Educate yourself by viewing a lot of different platforms and knowing what's going on, and limit your television viewing to those that's only essential, or maybe like an hour of a random show when you just need a break.